Next up, Representative Holland. So just before we start, I'm going to limit testimony to 2 minutes each testifier. Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that House File 3566 be re-referred to the Commerce Committee.
Okay.
Yep. Representative Hollins.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members. I am truly so excited to be here today presenting this bill. This is a project that I've been working on for the past at least 2 years. And I have to keep to my notes because otherwise I will just ramble forever.
Let's get the DE done then.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, so.
Before you ramble, so I believe that you have the DE3 Authors Amendment.
That's correct.
I will move the DE3 amendment to get the bill in the form the author would like. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The DE3 amendment is adopted.
Ramble away.
Yes, ramble.
All right. Thank you. So it came to my attention about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, that in Minnesota we're only collecting about 20% of our electronic waste. Everything else is either incinerated, landfilled, or sits in our closets and our basements collecting dust. And so we do believe that there are several reasons for this dismal collection number. So the current e-waste bill is from 2007. So it is terribly outdated. It doesn't encompass the entire e-waste stream that we currently have. If you think about what we had in 2007, you'll note that most of us did not have one of these. Smartphones came out in June 29th. I think the iPhone was introduced June 29th of 2007. So our statute that we have currently didn't encompass everything that we have now. And if you think about what we have, we've got like earbuds, we've got phones, we've got laptops, we've got tons of electronics that are not covered by the current statute. The current program also relies on charging residents to recycle, and it also relies heavily on tax dollars. We know that when most folks show up to electronics drop-off places, when they find out they have to pay some amount of money, they just say no and they take their electronics and they walk away with them and either, like I said, stick them in their basement or they dump them into their waste stream, which is actually really terrible. You can't do that, and for a whole variety of reasons. I mean, it leaches heavy metals into the ground, but also they can start fires because lithium-ion batteries are incredibly flammable, and so there have been whole structures that have burned down because of our electronics being put into our regular waste stream. And then finally, there's just not enough collection sites across the entire state of Minnesota. I am fortunate enough to live and work in Ramsey County, where we have, which is a relatively small county also, but it also has free electronics recycling. But we recognize that that's just not true across most of Minnesota. And while Best Buy and Apple stores will accept electronic waste, the reality is a lot of folks in this room do not live in or represent areas that have a Best Buy or an Apple store nearby them. So the good news is this bill is aiming to get us to 100% collection of our electronic waste. That collection and processing of that waste would generate about 1,700 good jobs. We could recover precious metals that would provide almost 40% of the metals we need for the energy transition. And finally, we can save our state money by extending the life of our landfills, preventing structure fires created by the lithium-ion batteries, and preventing lead and heavy metal pollution from dumped e-waste. So with that, I'm going to turn over my time to my testifiers.
First up, Maria Jensen, Recycling Electronics for Climate Action. Welcome, and state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Maria Jensen with Recycling Electronics for Climate Action. A shortage of critical metals jeopardizes our energy transition, metals which could be recovered from our electronic waste. Minnesota annually generates an e-waste stream worth $3 billion, containing all the metals we need for things like solar panels, wind turbines, and geothermal energy products. We can create 1,700 jobs in our state, and effective collection is the first step. In Minnesota, we only collect 20% of our e-waste, and much of the rest ends up in landfills, where it contributes 70% of the heavy metal contamination there. It is time to replace our program from 2007 that sends most of its funds out of state, relies heavily on charging Minnesota residents per item recycled, and relies on Minnesota tax dollars to subsidize its shortcomings. There are 3 things that we need to fix this collection system. 1, an expanded definition. The current program covers TVs and computers. HF3566 will cover the whole e-waste stream. 2, make sure the cost of recycling is covered before the item is purchased. HF3566 provides free e-waste recycling for all Minnesota residents by improving the manufacturer responsibility program for our TVs and computers, and by implementing a fee on the sale of electronic devices. And thirdly, by directly reimbursing collection sites for the electronics recycled, HF3566 provides an incentive to collect more material and sufficient funds to spend on marketing and education to raise awareness among Minnesota residents. This bipartisan effort will save Minnesotan residents tax dollars by expanding the life of our landfills, by preventing lead pollution in soil and water, and by preventing catastrophic fires caused by improperly disposed of lithium-ion batteries. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Quillis, Computer Technology Association. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Tony Quillis, and I'm representing the Consumer Technology Association. It is a national trade association that represents manufacturers, retailers, startups, and small businesses involved in the electronics industry. I want to thank Representative Hollins for the conversations I've had with her, albeit briefly, yesterday, and also with the Association of Minnesota Counties and the Solid Waste Administrators Association for some very constructive conversations we've had in addressing concerns raised by the counties regarding e-waste. I think there is a path to solution, Mr. Chairman and members. We're not there yet, unfortunately, but I do think that there is a path there. Manufacturers are committed to addressing the collection, transportation, and recycling of electronic products, working within the current system that we have in statute right now. We want to ensure that and provide convenient access and collection for all the citizens of the state, no matter where they live. Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, there's a second part to this bill, and the Consumer Technology Association, along with a coalition of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce and the Minnesota retailers and others, oppose the creation of a 3.2% tax on certain electronic products. There's also concerns among that coalition of how the products, which products are going to be taxed, how much revenue is going to be raised, and how it's going to work within the existing solid waste tax system and the existing funds allocated by the legislature last year, Mr. Chairman. So I do think there's a path forward, but there are some concerns, especially with the new tax and how the program that would be set up in the second half of the bill would exist, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time.
Brian Martinson, Solid Waste Administrators Association. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. My name is Brian Martinson. I'm the Environment and Natural Resources Policy Analyst for the Association of Minnesota Counties. I'm here representing the Solid Waste Administrators Association, and my comments are also supported by the Minnesota Rural Counties. In 2006, Minnesota banned certain electronics from disposal due to the hazardous materials they contained. In 2007, Minnesota's Electronics Recycling Act was passed, and electronics manufacturers were to cover the costs of the recycling of these devices. However, the program is not working, and local governments and residents are picking up most of the tab. Under the current system, manufacturers negotiate the price they will pay recyclers at rates that do not cover the full cost. As a result, recyclers then must make up the difference by charging collectors who pass those costs on to residents, either through fees or by subsidizing the program with tax revenue. The current program does not account for collection costs, and as a result, the end-of-life charges discourage proper management and suppress collection rates. House File 3566 continues a product stewardship approach for covered electronic devices. These are the most problematic and difficult to manage products. This proposal was developed after reviewing what is done in other states and engaging stakeholders in the work to develop a Minnesota system. The CED program is a product stewardship approach, which is the basis of the current law, but is structured to ensure products and product producers are covering the costs of collection, transportation, and recycling. It will provide access to fee-free collection and recycling at the end of the day, and we ask for your support of this proposal.
Thank you. Sarah Pissick, CTIA.
Welcome.
State your name for the record and what CTIA is.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Hollins and committee members. My name is Sarah Pissick. I represent CTIA, which is the Wireless Association. So first, I want to thank Representative Hollins and the bill advocates for working with us, and I look forward to continuing those discussions. The wireless industry supports sustainability efforts to ensure our business operations and products are environmentally conscious so that we can build resilient communities. The DE amendment adopted today made some changes relating to cell phones, and we appreciate the acknowledgement that cell phones are different. We want to keep working with the author and the advocates on this language as the bill moves forward, but I also just want to share a few comments on behalf of CTIA. Our members include wireless carriers and device manufacturers, and they take their responsibilities seriously. Mobile devices have inherent value for recycling purposes. Mobile devices contain a variety of materials that can be reused to create new mobile devices, electronics, or other products, thus reducing unnecessary waste and saving energy that would be spent on sourcing new materials. Charities across the country recycle mobile devices as a means to raise funds for various causes, while other nonprofits provide wireless devices to domestic violence survivors, senior citizens, and police and fire departments to use in emergencies. Mobile devices also have inherent value for trade-in purposes. Wireless carriers regularly provide discounts for device trade-ins that can considerably reduce the cost of a new device. And additionally, wireless retailers offer similar programs that can help drive down the cost of a consumer's next device. And I think these points were recognized in your amendment, so thank you. But we also want to just mention the 3.2% retail tax on electronic recyclables could be burdensome on the other products we carry, like tablets and other things that also have these same components. So we understand the goal of the bill and want to just keep working with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Amber Backus, National Waste and Recycling Association. Welcome. State your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Amber Backus with United Strategies and here on behalf of the National Waste Recycling Association Minnesota chapter. Our chapter supports the structure of House File 3566, which addresses a gap in how to manage problematic materials at their end of life. The current electronics recycling system is not capturing enough materials, which end up in garbage and recycling carts, posing a significant safety risk to our haulers and processing facilities. Many of these electronics contain lithium-ion batteries. Improper disposal of products with these batteries can lead to their degradation from loading, compacting, stacking, and crushing, and this can cause thermal runaway, even in dead batteries, and produce intense heat, resulting in fires. In 2018, one of our members experienced a battery fire at their $20 million transfer facility, resulting in a catastrophic loss. Last year, Rice County Landfill had a battery fire that burned for a week. Based on a survey of materials recovery facility operators, each has more than 18 fires per year. This has led to skyrocketing insurance rates, which have increased 10 to 50 times due to fires. This is completely unsustainable rate and is preventing some facilities from getting the insurance coverage they need. With lithium-ion battery use expected to increase sixfold by 2030, it's essential we have a system in place, like the one proposed in House File 3566, that will support the proper collection and handling of these volatile materials. And lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the proponents of the bill for inviting us to the table early as this legislation was being contemplated, incorporating our feedback, and developing a product stewardship program that builds on our existing e-waste infrastructure and doesn't give the brand manufacturers control over the logistics of managing it. So we, as NWRAs, appreciate the opportunity to lend our support to this bill and be happy to stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt Kudelka, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Kirk Kudelka, Assistant Commissioner with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the current e-waste product stewardship program and how it's not achieving the goals set out by the legislature. Manufacturers being responsible for the full cost of the end of life of their products. Instead, Minnesotans are paying for the cost to properly recycle these materials. I want to share a little bit about program's data and how we are seeing the problem manifest in two different ways. One, not all the pounds recycled in Minnesota are covered by manufacturers. And two, when manufacturers do pay for the recycled materials through their obligations, they're not covering the entire cost of the recycling. On that first item, not all recycled pounds are covered by manufacturers and their obligations. Over the last 4 years, annually an average of 3.4 million pounds of TVs, tablets, and monitors have been recycled and not covered by the manufacturers at all. This represents about 17% of the pounds that are actually recycled and leaves others to cover these costs. The second item, the full cost of recycled pounds are not being covered by manufacturers. In 2022 and 2018, we used data from counties, manufacturers, and other states' programs to determine who was paying for the cost of recycling these materials. With the limited data shared by the manufacturers and recyclers, it's clear manufacturers are only covering about a third of the cost. The remainder of the costs are covered by counties or consumers through point of recycling fees at a county or a retailer, or property taxes by counties are being used to cover these costs. And we see this play out, as others have mentioned, where folks are covering this, whether it's those fees or not. If the e-waste system was operating as intended, counties would not be left with unpaid pounds of e-waste and consumers would not be paying these recycling fees. These costs should and would be covered by the manufacturer of the products with a properly functioning program. We need a solution to fix this issue. Thank you, Chair and committee members and author for the bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak for or against the bill? Anyone in the audience? We'll move to member questions. Representative Lislegard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't have any questions. I kind of just have a comment that I didn't hear one person testify against the bill. I think even Tony Quillis from the chamber sees a path forward, and I think that that's really important. Representative Scraba and I were at an event last week, I believe it was, last Friday, and it was a TED Talk, my first one ever, and it was incredible. One of your testifiers, who's sitting in the front row, did an incredible job with this conversation with another individual. And I also heard Julie Lucas, and she is the director of Mining Minnesota. And boy, do we have an opportunity in the state of Minnesota to do the right thing. We can lead in recycling, and we can get the very minerals, because in your statement, you made a comment that you only can get 40% of the copper needed or the minerals needed for this clean transition that everybody is supporting. And so I would just ask us to look at the bigger picture, and I believe that we can do both, recycle and do responsible mining right here in the state of Minnesota. So thank you.
Representative Finke and then Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Chair Hansen. Representative Hollins for your bill. This is a great bill. I'm so excited about it. I just wanted to point out how, this problem is very far beyond where we ever should have let it get. And the rapid increase of how quickly tech manufacturing is increasing, even the manufacturing is becoming done by machines that are being manufactured that will need to be recycled, because it's all becoming automated, it's all becoming AI, it's going to become a feedback loop beyond anything we can possibly imagine. So we need to make sure we are doing this now before we get 10 years, 20 years down the line, and the amount of tech manufacturing that we're going to see is just going to I think we aren't even going to recognize. So thank you very much for advancing this.
Representative Scraba. Representative Scraba.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative. I do want to piggyback on what Representative Lislagard was talking about. We were at a Virginia Silver Lake TED Talk, and Maria was there speaking, and your testifier. And I've had a chance to talk with the testifier also. In concept, this is a great idea. I mean, I still don't understand the dollar amount that's going to be collected. If it's $100 million, you know, how much money are we looking at? We're talking about maybe 5 MPC employees. There's a lot in here. There's a lot in here. One of the things and again, I'd like to learn more about it before we get too far away, because perhaps we can modify the system we have now rather than make a new system. We'll see how it goes. One of the things about what Representative Lislagard talked about, the amount of recovery we can get from these used devices, it fills between 10 and 20% of the need that we need for renewable energies, you know, to get rid of the fossil fuel energy. A windmill takes, I think it's 12 tons of copper, and the only way we're going to do that is to mine more copper. And if we mine this copper, northeastern Minnesota, specifically in my district, is somewhere we can do that. And we need responsible mining. We need a permitting system, which we don't have right now, that we can all trust. And I think we have the opportunity to use this to go forward and agree that we can all work together to get this done. So I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Representative Hollins. There's another question, but just in case you need to respond.
I don't know if there was exactly a question in there, but I'm happy to like meet with you and walk through the bill. Well, let's be real, I'm not going to walk through the bill. I'm going to have Maria, who is amazing, walk through the bill because she understands the ins and outs of this industry a lot better than I do, because there are some technical changes in there that are pretty significant, and not just because the recovery of the metals are important, but because the system in which recyclers and haulers work within needs to be changed. And so happy to have further conversations with you. I'm also like very happy to report that Talon Metals has signed on as a supporter of this bill. And I think, you know, the conversations that we've been having with them is that, you know, we're not saying this is an alternative to mining, but this is something where what the metaphor that we use a lot is your grandmother would say, you use what you have in addition to anything new, right? And what we have right now are closets that are full of old fax machines, laptops, desktop computers that have precious metals that we need in order to make this clean energy transition.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Hollins, I had a question about nonprofits, schools, others that might potentially be impacted by an increase in taxes, and I was wondering if there's anything in the bill that addresses that, or if it's something that y'all have talked about with stakeholders. Those fees could pile up quickly, and then I also wanted to know if we do have a number on how much e-waste is ending up in landfills. I know we're trying to recycle as much as we can get, and we talked about that earlier. You did, Representative Hollins, but those two things I'd like you to address if possible. Thank you.
Representative Hollins.
Thank you. That's a really fair question. As you saw, I gestured to my brains in the situation here to have her come up and talk.
So as for cost,
State your name,
oh, sorry, Maria Jensen. As far as the cost to schools, computers, which would be one of the main things that schools are buying, are not going to have a fee on them. That is going to be paid for through the manufacturer responsibility program, which currently exists today. It's just being revamped in House File 3566. As far as other items, I know that schools are one of the most common customers for refurbished technologies. We have companies in Minnesota like Repowered and Minnesota Tech for Success, Minnesota Computers for Schools, which are providing millions of computers and other devices that are refurbished to the schools at a very affordable cost, and those items will not be affected at all by this bill. Their price will not increase.
Representative Heitzman.
Thank you, Chair. The second half of that question was an estimate of e-waste. If we have that available, that'd be great. How much e-waste is going to landfills currently?
So currently, we are collecting about 20 million pounds through the program, and there's an estimated 133 million pounds generated each year.
Thank you, Chair. So since I have you there, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off with ask for a number. And it might have already been covered, so I apologize if I missed it here again. But do we have an idea how much money specifically this? Do we have any estimates how much money this specifically would raise? And then if it maybe covers enough, is it possible that the solid waste tax could be reduced at all? Maybe there could be an offset there.
Maria Jensen.
I can't speak to the solid waste tax, but as far as cost of this program, we know that the fee will generate about $100 million a year to collect and recycle electronic waste. And just to give some examples about for specific items, if you were to purchase a TV under this program, there would not be a fee on it, but you would be able to recycle it for free. Whereas today you pay somewhere between $29 or up to $125 to recycle that item. A microwave, for example, would have the fee on it, and you would pay about $6 when you purchase it, whereas today you're paying about $20 to $25 to recycle it. A smoke detector is another example. Under this program, you'll pay about 92 cents when you purchase it, whereas today you're paying $15 a pop to recycle it. So all in all, it will be saving consumers money when they turn around to get rid of their items.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Representative Hollins to close.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the input. I've spoken with many of the folks or organizations and companies that have concerns about this bill, and we do plan to continue working with them to try and find some sort of middle ground. However, I do want to note that we have support from almost 50 organizations, as diverse as environmental justice orgs, to recycling processors, to waste haulers, to mining companies. We've garnered bipartisan support in the Senate and certainly bipartisan interest in the House, if not any co-authors. And we have got support from the counties, MPCA, and the Waste SWA. I can't ever remember what it stands for.
Solid Waste Administrators.
Solid Waste Administrators Association. And I think that's because this is universally recognized as an issue that has significantly increased over the past 20 years, and it's something that we absolutely need to do something with. Finally, I really want to recognize Maria Jensen, who has worked so tirelessly with me and educated me along the way in this process, and her technical knowledge and ability to coordinate with dozens and dozens of stakeholders in this very complicated and technical world of solid waste has been truly remarkable, and I am so indebted to her. And I strongly support you, urge you to support this bill. Thank you so much.
I renew my motion that House File 3566 as amended be re-referred to the Commerce, Finance, and Policy Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Congratulations.